Welcome to Founders Unfiltered. I'm your host, Freddie Coffey. Founders Unfiltered, of course, is a series of candid conversations uncovering inspiring personal journeys of entrepreneurs on the edge of innovation from around Ohio and across the country. And today I'm very excited. I feel like I'm always very excited for these, but it's because we get to speak with some really inspiring entrepreneurs. But I'm very excited to be joined by Christian Zimmerman of Qoins. Christian is the founder of a fintech platform that is an automated micro payment and financial wellness platform that uses spare change to quickly pay off student loans and credit card debt to help users take control of their financial future. Since launching in 2017, Qoins has helped users pay off more than $15 million in debt. Maybe even more than that now. Christian, you can let me know. And he is the company itself has raised more than $1 million from angel investors, grants, and awards, including a $100,000 award from Google for startups. Christian's professional background also includes stints at HireWire and ShiftGig and a variety of other hustles in the gig economy, which I'm sure we will get into as well. He was recently recognized in the social impact category of Forbes 2021 30 Under 30 list, and is a first-generation Latinx college graduate as an alumnus of Georgia State University's Robinson College of Business. And I know, Christian, that you're from El Salvador, so I also want to wish you a happy Hispanic Heritage Month that we just kicked off
Thank you.
this
Thank you.
month as
Yeah,
well. So, Christian, welcome.
thank you for having me. Yeah, excited to be here. I think that was a great intro, so appreciate it.
I like to do my research, so I've just been obsessing over you for the last couple of days before this interview started. And like I said, very happy to have you. And knowing and following your entrepreneurial journey and seeing kind of where you've come from and knowing some of the challenges that you've had and where you are now, I think your story is a really unique one. In some ways, there's a little bit of a Cinderella story there, which we'll get into, in the way that Qoins kind of came to be. So, before we find out more about you and your journey, give us the elevator pitch for Qoins.
Yeah, so I think you did a good one there earlier, but I'll take a stab at it as well. I do them all the time now, right? So Coins is a financial wellness platform that helps consumers pay off their debts faster through education and automation. So our goal is, and our mission behind Coins has always been, how do we create positive social impact in those around us? That's my own personal mission, and I think I've kind of try to use that same mission into any business that I try to start. And so that obviously well aligned with what we're doing here at Coins.
So I had a little bit of an ulterior motive there in asking for your elevator pitch, because the reality of Qoins is it was ultimately the result of kind of entering a single pitch competition in Atlanta 5 years ago. Walk us through how that all played out.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, like I graduated from Georgia State back in 2015, and so in 2016 I was working at startups, specifically HireWire at the time, and my nickname at that startup was the Plug. I was the guy that would just hustle and figure things out, and so at that same time there was this pitch competition called the Plug ATL for $100,000, and like many many I guess employees or people at a startup, we all want to do our own thing at some point in the future. And I had come up with this idea for Coins, which at the time was called Consolidet, terrible name, but also just like being better at public speaking. So, I would go to these pitch practices every week. This pitch competition kind of came about from that, and then I got a lot of support from my friends to say, hey, you should apply with this idea that you had. So long story short, I applied, made top 10 with just a very minimal, viable product, and that was kind of the nudge that I needed to get started with Coins.
So you entered this pitch comp. So top 10 didn't win, but top 10 finish, right? Entered the pitch competition essentially with a company that was an idea, not
Yep.
necessarily a formed company yet. So what was the next steps from there?
Yeah, so like to get to that point, again, to your point, we didn't have a business per se, but I created an unbounced landing page for free. I think I made a Fiverr video with a couple friends of mine at the startup I was working at for like $35. Made a script, and that was what we used to like get new customers. We did a Google form to acquire a list, and we had like a couple hundred people signing up. So from there, we decided, we didn't win, or I didn't win, but I wanted to try to see if this thing had legs. So started going to networking events, trying to find a development shop or a co-founder that could help with development. And that's where I ultimately met my co-founder Nate, at a networking event literally called Co-Founders Lab.
So you and Nate start Coins. You validate the idea. You start growing pretty quickly. At what point do you decide this has got legs? This is for sure. I'm going to stop being the plug at HireWire, and I'm going to do Coins full time.
Yeah, it was probably the biggest and scariest jump I've ever had to make, like just getting out of my comfort zone. I've never been much I've never been afraid of like or shying away from like taking risks or going out on a limb and doing something I'd never done before. But this one specifically, I just graduated, I just got my degree. My parents expected me to have a good paying job, and girlfriend as well at the time. And so, I'm thinking, what should I do? Should I do this on the side for the time being? Which I did, but ultimately, I think my mindset was just very much focused on trying to get this off the ground. And so kind of again had that nudge from the my employers, HireWire, kind of let me go to say, hey, like go focus on this. We'll give you a kickstart, kind of like to get your feet on the ground, and gave me time to actually like find a side hustle to pay the bills in the time as well. So yeah, I think it was like everyone saw what I wanted to do and just was able to get that support from both team, staff, and like friends and family to go and do it.
So you leave HireWire. You're working on Coins. You've got your co-founder. Things are in development. Everything's going right. It's all sunshine and roses and all that, but we know that that's not what entrepreneurship is like. There's bumps in the road. In your case, those manifested in some pretty serious health issues. So, what was going on, and how did that affect your mentality as a startup founder and your priorities?
Yeah, so like right after I left, I was already dealing with some complication. I didn't know what it was at the time. I just thought it was it like a flu or something. I was getting like shivers and cold. I forget what they're called, but uh, it would be hot outside and I'd be cold, or vice versa. And so, I was born with a heart condition called truncus arteriosus, where I've already had two open heart surgeries up until now. I'm 28 now, and so at that time, I just you know left Hirewire, had the health insurance, didn't have that anymore, and go to my doctor. I'm actually working at a side hustle at the time with like an agency that's managing Samsung, and my doctor calls me and says, "Hey, can you come in to the hospital? We need to do some tests." I'm like, "Sure." So I go, and then immediately they're like, "We're checking you in." I'm like, "What?" So it was, out of nowhere from that aspect where, one day, one night turned into a day, and a day turned into 2 days, and 2 days turned into a whole week, where I ended up spending, at the hospital. And it was obviously very depressing for me, just because I felt like I didn't really have much power to really do anything. And then they kept telling me like, hey, you might have to have a third open heart surgery, expedited. And in my head, I'm like, I just left my job. I just started a company, and I don't have the health insurance, and now might have to have a open heart surgery. But I think during that week, there's also missing the aspect that I I was just sitting in the room by myself, and like I don't know. I just kind of like I felt like I hit rock bottom to an extent, like just not having that control and understanding that at the end of the day, like your health is the most important thing. And for me, it was like if I'm feeling like this now, like what's the worst thing that can happen moving forward, right? It's the company goes under, or like I never got to start it. And so I don't know, it was like a trigger or switch in my head that just kind of like made me think like, oh, if I can get out of this, I can get out of anything. And that's kind of the mentality I've had thus far. I don't really view anything as a blocker for me.
Well, it's unfortunate, definitely, to hear about the struggle like that. But the idea that you could put a positive spin on it is pretty amazing, and be able to turn that into something that helps you persevere, motivates you, keeps you going. Is there's certainly something to be said about that. How do you maintain? Is that easy to maintain now that you've just kind of like that's your mindset going forward?
It's easier. I don't think it's ever easy, right? Like I think one thing
Yeah.
that I've learned kind of like the last few years of now running the startup, just myself and my co-founder, to now having teammates, to now making sure that they're getting paid, and helping them develop into their own leaders, in their own right, in their own
Hmm.
roles. I think there's just more of I take it more as a responsibility to make sure that that we do succeed, through ups and downs, right? So in that aspect, I think sometimes I do probably put a little more pressure on myself, but
Hmm.
that's what I signed up for. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt, knowing that that's what I signed up for. So I'm not complaining about that. That's what I wanted. That's why I'm doing what we're doing. And again, at the end of the day, my goal is, if we can create some sort of positive social impact, whether it's in my teammates or the customers that we're serving, or in any of the stories that I've been able to share thus far, then I'm moving in the right direction.
So another responsibility, along kind of with all that of being the founder, being the CEO, is paying the bills. And it's one of the most important parts of being a startup founder, aside from developing your solution, fundraising, making sure you can bring your product to market. So let's talk about fundraising. And in particular, let's let kind of marrying that with your attitude, this nothing can stop me attitude that came out of your challenges. How did that new motivation and attitude work its way into meetings with VCs or angel investors?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is, as you're meeting venture capitalists or angel investors, like I had to navigate those waters and understand, like, what are the motivations behind those that are giving that capital to invest in your company, right? Are they investing in you? Are they investing in the business? Are they investing in the potential growth? And obviously, it's a mix of all three, right? Are you the right team to do it? Does this business have legs to continue to grow? And then what is the potential, like, end goal behind that, right? So I had to learn how to kind of convey all three, when speaking with different angel investors or venture capitalists. Um, but understanding, like, the narrative is a little bit different for each one, like the specific strings that people want to hear and what they want to see are a little bit different as well. But ultimately, those are the main big three things that they're looking for. Um, but how I guess kind of put that into conversations I had is, I think I'm just very transparent and honest. I think it's like my double-edged sword, where I give too much information out sometimes than I should, but at the end of the day, it's also what helps me, be who I am. So, just try to be myself, try to give out that energetic, personality that I have, that mentality that I share, that, it's not something that I'm faking. Like, I will do whatever I can, to try to make sure that this continues to grow and continues to thrive, and scale up, through the hurdles. And I think at the end of the day, like, investors are looking for the team and founders that, will go through, struggles, and, come out on top.
So VC funding though can be a two-way street. Sometimes it's the founder, not a lot of times, but sometimes it's actually the founder who says no or turns down an investment, which I know that you've done. Can you talk about that or discuss a time when you chose to decline an investment and why?
Yeah, I mean, like, I have a lot of different conversations, some that go really well and some that don't. But yeah, I've had some where, when we first started, we just got through an accelerator program, was trying to get we're trying to get this first, like, seed round or angel round that we got, which was like 750. And the first check that came in was from a fund that was actually here in Atlanta, and it was like 100,000, and it was very exciting. Obviously, the largest check I'd ever seen. But ultimately, like, what I found was that it's not just the money that you should be taking, it's kind of the resources, the team, the investors themselves that are going to will help you get to that next level. And so, ultimately we had to turn it down, and it really sucked. But I think we ended up getting, coming out in a positive aspect, because we then met, other investors that were able to help us in other ways. It's not to say that they were bad investors, which there are some that are bad and you should never take money from. But, do they align with, I think the ultimate thing is, like, do they align with your mission? Do they align with your, your own personal goals and your personal viewpoints on certain things. And some don't and some do. So, we declined that one. I've declined others for even more personal reasons where they've heard my personal story about my heart condition and thought that that was a deterrent on the business because what if I go, right? Then what happens? I used to actually hide that a lot when I first started because I thought people kind of viewed it as like a bad thing. But again, like you got to take the good with the bad. It's nothing that I can hide per se. It's something I was born with, and honestly, I use it as a way of pushing forward. So again, it's do we align with our mission? Do we align with what it is we're trying to set out? And if it doesn't, then saying no is pretty easy.
What are some of the things that you're looking for in a VC or an angel investor that you would say yes to? That would be like, these are the this is the checklist where it's like we know that this is a good match.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, even like in our recent round, was like is the alignment on one, like the mission, like it's creating positive impact. Most investors, like they've already exited, they have tons of money, like they're either looking for two things: to make more money or to do good, right? Sometimes it's a mix of both. But is it to do good, right? Then even better. So there's that. The other is like from a resources standpoint, like what else is coming, what else is being brought to the table just aside from capital. So for example, this last raise, we were looking for people that we could bring in that had expertise in the financial technology sector, whether it was like former banking executives or former partners at specific industry or companies. So one example is like we have a former COO for like Green Dot Bank. So Green Dot obviously is very well known now. So that expertise and that network that we're able to get access to by building those relationships and having those doors open for us a little bit easier. Not to say that it's you know given to us right away, but yeah, those are the type of things that we're looking for. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be pushing through these doors and knocking on these doors, trying to get in, asking for advice or for help or for support. And if we can surround ourselves with investors that have already been there, done that, why make the same mistake twice?
So you may have just answered this really, but what advice would you have now that you've been through it? It probably took a little bit of time to develop that philosophy when engaging with VCs and angel investors during your fundraising rounds and things like that. What advice would you have for aspiring entrepreneurs that are looking to raise around? Like, what should they look for? What should they look out for?
I think the yeah, it took me way longer than I probably expected. I feel like over the last year or so is when things really started to click of like how to navigate these waters. Like I'd read books, but it didn't really make much sense to me up until recently. But I would first you got to understand like what type of investors are out there. Like are there angel investors? Are there venture capitalists? Because again, the goals behind each of these type of investors have a little bit different. They're a little bit different. Like a VC wants things to move fast, quick. They have high expectations on like high growth numbers, high revenue multiples, et cetera, right? Um, Angel investors primarily, typically, are there to invest in you as a founder. They want to help. They want to see you succeed, whether it's in this company or another. More times than not, they're investing in you because they see potential in you to be able to do your own thing, whether it's this product or not. So that took a while for me to understand. And I kept knocking on venture capitalist door before I even had like enough traction to even have those conversations. And where I see most people try to go is there first before building out a small group of angel investors who then have the network to get you to that next place. Um, so I would say that's the big thing. The other two is like um, you. I think one other thing that I faulted myself on was thinking that the investors are always right when they're not. Like investors don't know everything. They're there to help you. Like you're ultimately in the driver's seat. You're the one manning the boat. And so, if they have ideas, they're there because they're trying to help you, but that might not be right. And so, you can't say yes to everything that they're giving for advice, and you can't agree with everything. You have to be able to push back some and find some middle ground. I think that's really important. And then the third piece I would say is like time. Like I had a comment from someone literally like a week ago saying like, you've been in business for 4 years or 5 years now. Like, to me that's concerning. And in my head, I'm like, how is it concerning when I've literally gone from nothing? I've never done this in my whole life. I've learned on the go, and I'm continue to succeed. Whether your definition of success is different than mine, like I will continue to push forward. So honestly, like I see it as a positive versus like I've only done it in 2 years, and maybe I got wind because I got lucky, because yeah, luck has a lot to do with it sometimes. But educating yourself, surrounding yourself around the right people, continue to find the resources, I think is even more important. So I wouldn't let the timing aspect, if someone tells you like, you've been doing this for so long, like, I think everyone's heard the average of like 10 years, right? That's like typically where you see success on average. So for me, like, I'm maybe halfway there. Like I'm not even thinking like, oh man, am I ever gonna make this happen? So, you know, I'm in it for the long run.
So, in addition to raising the rounds that you guys have, you've also, the hustler that you are, you've also really gotten a lot of different funding opportunities through accelerators and pitch competitions. In a sense, kind of bootstrapping your way through a lot of those. What were some of the most memorable, and how did those pitch competitions that you've entered and won, in many cases, and then the accelerators that you've participated in help you?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I learned about like pitch competitions, like they're a great way to receive like non-dilutive capital, right? Giving up equity is great, right? But what is the returns that those people are investors expecting? Like, what is the value add that you're getting back? Where with non-dilutive, like you're putting in the work, and real ultimately, like whatever I put in is, my expectation is, the results of what the others see from that pitch competition. So, I try to be. I think I lost maybe one or two, but I haven't lost really since then. In many of the competitions I've done, and this one I'm just very competitive, but two, it was just I found like through those pitch practices, like what is it, uh, who is your audience? That's ultimately the main question. Like, who is in those stage? If I'm on the stage, who's in the audience that is listening to me, and how do I convey to them? And so I think one of the most memorable ones was here in Atlanta. I actually got to present on at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, like on the field. Like, obviously, it wasn't 50, 100,000 people. I don't know how much it holds, but it's a lot. But we were on the field. We were the last ones to go, second to last ones to go up, and I think there was like six companies for a $50,000 pitch competition. So we did everything. We went and got T-shirts that day. I always have this tradition of like taking a shot of tequila before I actually like go and present. It gets me like calmed down. And I got stuck in the rain, and I had to run back, and I barely made it to do my presentation. They were about to skip me. And long story short, we won, and it was just very gratifying because at that point we were at a very like crossroads where we needed this cash because we were behind on some bills, and we were at this point where we needed to either raise large funds or like figure out some way to get some more capital. So that $50,000 actually helped us travel to New York and travel to LA, to which we then ultimately raised our full round. So that was like the catalyst for making that happen. So I would say that would be one of the most memorable ones that we had thus far. Yeah.
I mean, a pitch competition in an NFL stadium it's a pretty big thing. But knowing that you're in Atlanta, I mean, there's a big startup scene in Atlanta. What are some benefits to the startup scene in a metro area that size, that somewhat smaller markets like Cleveland or Toledo and areas in northern Ohio that should want to embrace or could embrace? What can we steal from a market like Atlanta?
I think so one of the things that I really liked about Atlanta, and like why, people always tell me you should move to the West Coast, and you should run your company there. But um, I always believe that like being a fish in a small pond is the example I'm gonna give. So, a fish in a small pond gives you obviously more visibility. Being a small fish in a big pond, less visibility. And so what I see, like Atlanta or like Cleveland, was like when I started at least, was that like it was still a small pond. Like you still have a lot of opportunity to grow with the community as like an ecosystem, right? So for like tech startups in particular, like we've got to be involved in a lot of like what a lot of the growth in the city from a tech startup perspective. So we got embedded into one of the actual like startup hubs called Switchyards, and so from there, we got to be a part of like think one of 6 companies that they actually brought in and like pretty much incubated to an extent of giving us the resources and the opportunity to have our own office. Just jumpstart the idea of like, hey, this is what a business requires. So I would say that's like one big thing. Like, it wasn't anything that like the city did per se, but it was one guy in particular, or 2 guys, David Payne and Michael Tavani at Switchards. Like they'd given us the opportunity to work in the office for free. All we did was like work within the hub, whether doing they had events and whatnot. But it was a huge helping stone for us because I got to work in an office and I felt like that drive and motivated me to continue to want to build this. And I think for other early stage founders, like it's something like that that can really like be a catalyst for getting that company off the ground. I think the other thing behind it too as well is that like that was just one example, but community hubs, university systems, and then like city governance, like those 3 working together, I think can create huge impact because now you're working together as a community as a whole, across different sectors to understand like how do bills get passed to make things happen. How can stadiums be more involved to offer opportunities like that, right? And then how to build like just those relationships with people that are higher up.
Yeah, I love the stadium idea. I'm gonna try and see if we can coordinate something, in Cleveland Brown Stadium,
Yeah.
maybe right after they win the Super Bowl. I don't know. Although it'd be very cold there. Maybe we need a dome here. So you love Atlanta. I'm not going to get you to move to Northern Ohio, but you have sometimes gone outside of the market for other opportunities, funding opportunities, accelerators, things like that. You mentioned the coast, and I know you spent some time in Charlotte as well, doing some things, right? Why is that important, to look outside of home to be able to grow your company?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I learned too is that like, not we're in such a global economy nowadays, like not all your resources are going to be in the city that you live in. I when I first started, I wanted everything to be about Atlanta. I wanted to get my fund money here. I wanted to have my company. I wanted all my employees here. And that obviously wasn't the case. And even from the capital standpoint, it's just now starting to see like some of those changes happen. But I wasn't able to get very much money here in Atlanta. I had to go to the West Coast to actually get it because the mindset of that startup mindset was very well known in San Francisco, LA, whereas Atlanta, um, it's old money is what I call it. Like there's a lot of real estate. They're very safe investments. But again, that's changing a lot. Atlanta has culture. Like we have a lot of things going for us. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you have to find where you can get your resources at the lowest cost, not even the lowest cost, but at gives you the most value for your business, right? And then from a capital standpoint, where can you go that investors are going to understand what it is you're doing? I've gone to LA 2 or 3 times now, and I'm like 3 for 3. Every time I go, I'm able to raise capital there. Whereas I had gone to New York or SF and not as much, but yeah, I mean, it's just understanding again who is your audience, who is the investors you're looking for, what is it that they're looking for, and honing in on that.
So you mentioned a global economy, and now it's almost a virtual environment, so much just due to the pandemic and things like that, the way people are working. So do you think that's universally achievable based on your experience that you can live where you want to live, you can start your startup where you want to be, but still make it happen if you need to fundraise on the coast or that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, even the last year, it's been a learning curve for me because again, I do like to be in person and meeting people, but with the whole virtual changes now, we have teams in Canada now, we have teams in Ukraine, we have people in India. Like we just brought on someone in India this week. We have people out in SF, we have people in New York. So, I probably would have, I may have done it at some point, but the initial mindset I had was not there, and now, I'm actually I strive to try to find people outside because, again, you can find talent and the talent is everywhere. It doesn't have to be just right here.
That's great to hear because I feel like this environment is one that's gonna, stick around, and being able to leverage that and manage that now, I think is going to be, an important tool that people kind of need in their arsenal moving forward. Um, you 5 years in, 5 or 6 years in at this point. What are you up to now? What's next for Coins? What does the future hold for you guys?
Yeah, so two big things that we're working on to close out this year is one, we're coming out with a Coins debit card. So we're trying to be the debit card that pays off your debt faster. So again, just going back to our underlying mission, which is how do we find more ways to help consumers achieve that financial goal, which is ultimately paying off debt so that they can do these other things. So our debit card is really going to be tailored towards working with retailers and merchants nationwide to help you, save more money on the back end. When you are buying groceries, when you are getting gas, when you are going to get a cup of coffee, these are all things that most people do on a daily basis. Why not have those habits apply towards paying down these debts faster? And why not have the businesses also have a corporate social responsibility to also want to put you in a better position for your own financial journey? So I think it's a win-win. So we're really, really, really excited about that. Again, it's like, how do we close this loop between credits and debits? Like viewing all of your debts in one place and also viewing your income to really see like, okay, I do owe 30,000 in student loans, or I have an auto loan or a credit card with Wells Fargo. Like, why not have it in one place? And that's ultimately what we're trying to build here. So that's very exciting. It's been a very daunting challenge for us, and again, it's always new but exciting. And then the other thing is, um, speaking on like the mission, it's financial health. That's really what we've always thought about. And the other thing people always ask about, especially with the economy, is like investing, investing, investing. And so we kind of buck that under financial wealth. So we're actually very excited because launching here very soon, through in partnership with the Republic, we'll be able to offer anyone, accredited or unaccredited investor, to invest in coins for as little as $100. And so I think this just drives back to what we truly believe in is how do we help you achieve financial freedom, whether it's, trying to get out of debt first or thinking about, hey, how do I make a return on my investment for the long term? And why not focus it or put that money into a company that's already focused on that same goal? So we're very excited about that. And our goal will be to try to raise $1 million through the crowd fund, through our community, our customers, just putting that power back into the hands of our those that, obviously are using our product.
Big things on the horizon. That's exciting. And another way to fundraise, doing the crowdfunding. You truly are just like hustling across from beginning to end. I love it.
I think, from my standpoint is, from a fundraising standpoint, we've always had to be creative, just given the I don't like to complain about it, but the marginalism of like how much, Latinos and Black founders are able to raise venture wise, right? Versus, what we're able to raise outside, other communities. And, our communities don't necessarily have, family and friends to go and give hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I think we're trying to change that. And, I think this is just one step that Republic has done a great job of. And that's why we felt so adamant about doing this for our customers as well.
That is an excellent point to wrap things up on. I would love to dig into that more with you in the future, maybe live in Cleveland. Unfortunately, we're running out of time or running short on time for today. Before we wrap things up, I do want to mention to everybody in attendance, and we hope you'll tune in for next month's conversation with Chris Beck, CEO of Performex, an in-force policy management platform for life insurance professionals. Prior to founding Performex, Chris served as the executive leader, scaling enterprise SaaS companies and ultimately guiding two companies to exits of more than $100 million. So on October 27th, I'll sit down with Chris and we can learn more about her entrepreneurial journey and experience starting and scaling high growth companies. And then the following month in November on Founders Unfiltered, in partnership with Magnet, we'll feature a conversation with Carla Macklin, founder of Buckeye Mask. And we'll talk to Carla about how her advanced manufacturing startup rapidly accelerated to meet the sudden demand spurred by the pandemic. You can learn more about these events and others by visiting our website, jumpstartinc.org. And now it's time for what I have selfishly dubbed Freddie's Founders Fast Five, because nobody has made me change it yet. So Christian, I've got a series of 6 questions. This is how it's going to work. They're just quick fire questions. You've got to answer 5 of them. You get 1 pass. If you answer all 6, then I will find a bell or a sound effect or something to ring for you, and you will get an imaginary prize. Are you ready?
Awesome, let's do it.
All right. So first one, what's the best single line of advice you've ever been given?
If you start, finish.
Perfect. What's the weirdest thing you've ever heard in a meeting with a VC?
I think I would go back to the example I gave, like, what if you die?
That's certainly, that's probably doesn't happen in a lot of meetings, fundraising
No,
meetings.
very weird though.
What do you do when it's tough to stay motivated?
I try to reset, just go out, read a book, just clear my head.
If you didn't live in Atlanta, where would you want to be? And why is it Cleveland? No, I'm kidding.
Um, so I typically would have said like LA, but I would also say Mexico now. Mexico City.
Why Mexico? Why Mexico City?
I did a month there in June with my wife, and we just really like kind of there's a lot of coffee shops. It's very chill. Like I was able to get a lot of work done, and just new scenery. It just really everything about it I really like.
That's my next vacation I'm planning. All right. What is another problem? Since you're a very mission-focused person, what's another problem you think really needs solving?
I think so. Obviously, from within my community, a lot of like Latinos like make money through like cooking or cleaning, like specifically around like food, tamales, things like that. I've always wanted to. One of my other things I want to do in the future is find a way to give everyone the ability to make to generate income through their kitchen.
Ooh, great idea. All right. Finally, you're 5 for 5, so I'm gonna guess that you're gonna answer this last one. And we'll get an endorsement deal for you here. What's your favorite pre-pitch tequila?
Pre-pitch tequila, um, probably Don Julio.
All right. That's it. You're off whatever the heat of this hot seat was. I'm sure it was pretty easy for you to answer, but we appreciate it, Christian. I got to tell you, like I said at the beginning of this, I was super excited to be able to talk to you. I'm inspired by your story and very excited about your startup and how you guys are growing and just what you're setting out to solve is just really remarkable. So I want to thank you for joining us, and again, appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to share the story. And again, I always hope that someone gets something out of it, right? And that's really the main point of it.
I think many of the people that are viewing us right now will. And when we're out of this virtual environment, I know that you haven't been here. I want to invite you to Northern Ohio.
I want to come.
I will get the first Don Julio for you, or 1800, which is my personal favorite. So we'll discuss it then.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Thank you so much, Christian.
Thank you, Freddie.
I also want to thank you for attending today's webcast. Jumpstart provides a variety of programs, services, and funding options to grow your business. Whether you're looking for investment capital, technical assistance, or both, we are here and ready to help. You can get engaged by reaching out to us on social media or apply for funding and assistance on our website at jumpstartinc.org. Thanks, everybody. We hope you have a great day, and we will see you next month.